Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Britain's Best B Roads. We're not out for a drive today, we're back in the garage for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're still in lockdown here in South Lanarkshire, so we can't go too far afield unfortunately. That lifts on Friday, which is very exciting, so we'll be back out on the road hopefully this weekend. And number two, I had a bit of an incident with the red Porsche 944. We've had some frost here over the last few days, and I forced the electric window on the passenger side down when the car was still cold, and I hadn't realised that it must have been frozen within the weather stripping, and it pulled the bottom of the strip off the window. The rollers came out, basically completely dismantled itself within the door, and in doing so it broke one of the little roller bearings in the assembly. So I'm waiting for that part to come in before I can put everything back together. Not a big job, but it's a bit of an inconvenience, and I like fresh air as much as the next person, but driving with no passenger window in freezing conditions probably isn't very sensible. So I thought I would take this opportunity to answer a question that I have been asked literally never, which is, why do you have two Porsche 944S? You've seen the red one, and now let me introduce you to this black one. It's an F plate, early 1989 car. And to explain a bit about this, we need to go back to February of 2019, so almost 2 years ago. I took my son to a classic car auction. I thought he would like to see the cars. Well, to be honest, I wanted to go and see the cars, and I took him as an excuse. And in every other walk area of life, I think I show quite good judgment and self-restraint. But when it comes to cars, that all goes completely out of the window. Self-control goes out of the window when it comes to cars. So I already knew that I was probably going to buy a car when I was going to this auction. And I'd done what perhaps some of you do, which is look at the auction catalogue and put little stars or marks next to the ones that, depending on the price they go for, they might be interested. And so one of the ones I had marked before the auction was this car, because the description of it seemed pretty good. But when I got to the auction and saw the car, it looked really rough. And I knew that I shouldn't touch it. My brain, my head was saying it had these aftermarket side skirts on it, which signalled one of two things, Number one, it's somebody that's had the car that would rather spend their money on things like this than on proper maintenance of the car. And secondly, these are basically a trap for moisture and dirt along the sills, which are one of the weakest points of a 944 anyway. So I knew that with having these on, that the sills would not be in great condition. So I knew all that. And so I had put a cross through the catalogue for this car. But then later on, when my son and I were sitting watching the auction here, watching the cars come up, the hammer was about to go down on this car for what I thought was a really low price, and so I stuck my hand up, and then nobody else bid after I had, and I ended up with the car. Oh dear. But it couldn't be that bad, right? Couldn't be that bad. So I got home, told my wife. She wasn't very pleased. She wasn't very pleased, A, because I bought the car, but B, because how was I going to get this car back home? It's about 100 miles away from where we live, this auction. And the very next day I was flying out to China for work. So when was I going to get time to pick this car up? So I said, no, we'll get up early on Sunday morning. You will drive me there, please, lovely wife. And I will drive the car back and you can follow me. And the inevitable happened. The car broke down after about 20 miles. I had to push the car into a service station car park. I did run over my own foot. I nearly broke my ankle in the process. And then the car stayed there, and my wife had to deal with it being recovered back to our house because I was on a plane to China. So she's never let me forget that. And then when I got back from China to a proper look at the car, I realised just what a mess it was actually in. Now let me read to you the description of this car. that was in the auction catalogue. Now, I don't blame the auction for this, I don't think. I should have checked the car properly. I only looked at it and just got that initial reaction and didn't check it properly. If I had, then I would have been resolute that anything over £500 was too much for this car. Presented with a 17 stamp service history and a good quantity of invoices contained within the history file. Correct, this is accurate. In 2016, the car was taken into dry storage and has since been fully recommissioned. Right, well, I must have a different understanding of what fully recommissioned means, because this car hasn't been on the road for 2 years now, because what I've had to do to it is all new brakes, calipers, discs, pads, because the ones that were on it were completely rotten and didn't work. The whole floor of this car is new. New inner sills, new outer sills, new floor pans, all new metal, all welded, new shock absorbers in the back, so many little things that I couldn't list to you. So I must have a different understanding of what recommissioned means. I would say now the car is recommissioned. What it was at that point was probably a few months away from the scrap heap. And the really interesting thing as well is, when this car was sold at auction, it had only been MOT'd 3 months ago. Now the car could not have got into the state it was in the space of 3 months, which means when this car was MOT'd, it was a death trap. It should not have been MOT'd. The brakes didn't work properly. The only things holding the two halves of the car together was basically the roof and the paint on the sills and these plastic sill body kits. The car was a complete mess. But I'm happy to say that all that work has now been done, and tomorrow it goes for its MOT. So fingers crossed, wish her luck. Hopefully she passes the MOT tomorrow, and then maybe in the next video we'll actually be out on the road in this car for the first time properly it's not been on the road for 2 years since I've had it, and I suspect it wasn't on the road really for a couple of years before that. So for the first time probably in about 4 years, this car's going to be on the road, hopefully. So that explains why I've got this black 944, how I came to have that one. Well, why have I got the red one? Well, the truth is, when I got told how much welding this car needed, I thought I would just use it as a donor car. And if I could get another good 944, ideally an S, so that the engine and the transmission could be switched over to if needs be, then I would just keep this car as a parts car. So I bought the red one. I'm really happy with that. It's a great car, very, very original car. And in the meantime, I managed to find somebody who would weld the car at a reasonable price. And so I thought, well, let's do that. Let's try and get both cars good and on the road, and then we'll see, we'll sell one of them. So that's the plan. The red one's for sale now, and the black one will go back on the road. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you liked this little introduction to my original 944S, and if you did, please subscribe, and hopefully the next video will be us out on the road in this car. See you next time. Bye bye.